All right, let's get ready to talk about some parallel lines. Parallel lines, lines that never meet and are always the same distance apart on the same plane. Okay, so when you look at them, in our case, we have two parallel lines. Those are pretty easy to see. But then what's that line that cuts through them? Well, that's called a transversal. So we're going to be doing problems that involve parallel lines with a transversal. So sit back, get ready to take some notes, pause the video when you need to, and hopefully things will become clear by the end. Okay, our first definition or word we need to know is the word alternate. You're going to hear that word a lot when we describe angles. Alternate simply means they're on opposite sides of the transversal. As you can see, I've identified two of them that are on opposite sides of this line that comes right through the middle. They're called alternate angles. But we don't just usually say alternate angles, we usually add a word to it. In this case, let's look at the word interior. Interior means between the parallel lines. So if we look at these two angles that are on here, there's one here and then one up here. Those are what we call alternate, because they're on opposite sides of the line, interior angles. Alternate interior angles. And what we know about these two angles is they are equal in measure. Now, there's also a thing called alternate exterior angles. These angles are on the outside of the parallel lines. And once again, these angles are equal. So they're really alternate because they're on opposite sides of the transversal. Exterior angles. Alternate exterior angles. Pretty cool thing. Corresponding angles. These are angles that are basically in the same place but on a different line. I guess that's the best way to describe it. So if you look at these two angles, what do you notice about them? They are equal to each other. Now we're going to use all these definitions and the fact that they're equal to kind of solve a puzzle here in a minute. Then we have what we call vertical angles. Vertical angles, when you have two intersecting lines, two lines across each other, the angles that are opposite of each other are called vertical angles, and they're equal to each other. So if one of them's 120, the other one's 120. So you're saying, why do I need to know all this? Let's say they give you that this one angle is 120. Well, I just learned that vertical angles mean that this one's going to be 120. That's pretty cool. And if I sit here and think about this, I see a straight line. The parallel line is a straight line. If the one angle is 120, then this other angle over here to the side must be 60 because they're supplementary. They form a straight line. Well, let's look at that. Well, if they form a straight line, are there other angles we can figure out? Well, what about the one opposite of 60? The vertical angle. Well, yes, that's also 60. Okay, so it's kind of like a puzzle. There's two different angles, and they keep showing up everywhere. Now, if I wanted to go down and find out what this angle is right here, well, I could use the alternate interior. That's this one right here. Means that this one would be 120. Or if I wanted to use corresponding angles, I could match it up to this one up here, and that would make it still 120. And if it's 120, that one makes this one 60. It's vertical angle, 60, and this one 120. So really, if you know one out of the 8 angles, you can figure up all the other angles. Not too hard to do. And yes, they will throw in some expressions and equations in here just to make it a little bit crazy.